Here's a truly fabulous song by Chris Smither. I have to admit, until about a week ago, I hadn't heard this song. A friend of mine, Alex, sent me the song because she knows I'm always curious to hear new or different music, and I've become a little bit obsessed by it. There are lots of versions of Chris Smither playing this on YouTube. He's also recorded various versions. It's always a little bit different, but the key elements are always the same. And back in the day, he did do a DVD. That's out of print, but on the Homespun website, you can buy that and watch it, and it comes with a rudimentary tab and all the rest of it. I've also tabbed this out note for note, depending on what version you're listening to. I'll put that on the screen, but I'll also put that up on Sheet Music Direct and Sheet Music Plus, so you'll be able to download the PDF and have that in front of you as you watch the video. I will say it's not very easy. Okay, so if you're not used to finger picking, if this is your first foray into open tunings or whatever, this might not be the ideal song to cut your teeth on. Also, there's a thing, and you should know this. He does this thing which I can't do. Okay, I'll just, at the outset, I'm going to tell you. He wraps his thumb round the 5th fret, and then he gets his 1st and 3rd fingers up here. I can kind of do it on an electric guitar with a narrower neck, maybe on a parlor guitar or something smaller with a shorter scale length, then I'd certainly have half a chance. But on a dreadnought like this, I just can't. And it's an integral part of the song in as much as that's the sound he's creating. I reckon my workaround, which is simply a bar chord here, is going to work pretty well. And you should find that the sound you create is pretty much indistinguishable from the original. So I don't think there's very much lost there. I suspect that most people watching this will also struggle to do what he's doing. He does have a very long thumb. So that said, I'm going to structure it like this. We're going to look at the chords. There are actually only 3 chords in reality, although there's a bunch of fancy stuff that happens on top. Then we're going to look at the picking, which is a straightforward Travis style picking pattern, but again it's very quick. And then there's some chord shapes on the top, and we'll put all that together. We'll layer that together with some other kind of twiddly-fiddly bits that he does, and by the end of this you should have a pretty authentic version of what he does on the original. So the structure of the song is what you'd call AABA. There's a 4-bar A section that's repeated, slightly different, but basically the same thing. Then there's a contrasting section, and then we return to the original. I'm counting it like this. If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension. You might count it twice as many beats, depending on how you count this. I've got 16 bars altogether. That's how I'm going to put this up on the screen anyway. And I'm going to really simplify it for now by just playing D, then a G, which would be a bar right across the 5th fret, and an A up at the 7th fret. And that really is it. As I said before, there's lots of other stuff, but this is the basis of it. So the first A section. If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension, the taste of endless time. And the second section starts the same way with a slightly different ending. It's just like water, runs right through our fingers, but the flavor of it lingers like a rich red wine. And then we just have a single beat of A then to bring us back to the D that closes out that section. So that's all of that. The next section begins on A bar of A, bar of D. In those days we were single and we lived them one by one. Back to A. Now we hardly see them, they don't walk, they run. And we finish off with 4 bars, just like the second 4 bars. But I got plenty left to set my sight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. And then there's a little instrumental section which is essentially the same as that last 4 bars, and that's it for the chords. Now I reckon it pays to memorize that chord sequence because there are 4 verses, they all follow exactly the same structure. There's an intro and various instrumental bits in between, and again they all follow exactly the same sequence. So commit that to memory and you'll have a bit more brain left to focus on all the other stuff, including the picking. So let's look at that now. This is a basic Travis picking pattern. Essentially we're moving from the 6th string to the 4th string with the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And you really need to get that under your fingers. Now, adding finger notes on top, let's look at what's happening here. Once we've played the 6th string with the thumb, we pick the 2nd string with the 2nd finger. And in Travis picking, that's often referred to as the outside pair. And then we come up to the 4th string with the thumb and pick the 3rd string with the 1st finger. So 6, 2, that's the outside, and then 4, 3 is the inside pair. And before we do anything else, you could practice just creating some little unexpected syncopations with accents that you drop in, or maybe ghosting notes so you almost don't hear the top part and just pick out the bass more strongly. All that kind of stuff is going to add a little subtlety and variety to the pattern. But that's basically it. We will look at some variations in a moment, but let's just have a single verse played with the bar or the open strings with this pattern, and you'll see how we're already starting to approach the original. If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension. Taste of endless time. It's just like water, it runs right through your fingers, but the flavor of it lingers like rich red wine. In those days we were single and we lived them one by one. Now we hardly see them, they don't walk, they run. But I got plenty left, I've set my sight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on, I'll be home soon. Okay, we're getting there. A few common variations on this basic Travis picking. The first thing to say is the note on the 2nd string. It's very common to bring that forward so it's played at the same time as the bottom string. So instead of this 6-2, we get 6 and 2 together. Add that to the standard pattern and you'll get this. And you might punctuate the beginning of a phrase like that. Or else you might delay it until the 2nd thumb note. Again, just to give it a bit of variety, a bit of punctuation if there's a kind of structural reason to do that, or just because you want to change things up a bit. Both of those are going to work pretty well, give it a bit more flavour. And then, of course, the 3rd finger could be playing the top string, probably instead of the 2nd string. And in a moment, when we start to look at the shapes on the top string and the 3rd string, we're going to need to bring that 3rd finger into play to create picking on the top string. But, you know, just think about what the 2nd string notes would be and take that over with the 3rd finger up on the top string. Okay, that's the picking. Let's look at these chord shapes that I'm talking about. We've got some 6ths. So if we just play the open 3rd and top string, that's a 6th. And if we move up in a D scale, we're going to get that 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string. I've got a finger, I'm using my 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the top string. Now let's move that up again. These are really useful shapes, and Chris Smither says as much on his DVD that these will stand you in good stead. Now I've got my 2nd and 3rd finger. I'm keeping my 3rd finger on the top string, but I'm switching my 1st finger out for my 2nd finger now because they're both on the 5th fret. So as we move up the scale, because the notes aren't all the same distance apart, we're going to either have notes on the same fret or they're going to be staggered by a fret, and I'm moving the finger on my 3rd string accordingly. Okay, so 5 and 5, 7 and 7, and we'll have 8 and 9. That's as high as we get. You could have 10, 11 and 12, 12. That would complete the whole scale. Now, if we start working through the tab, you'll begin to see how these various elements fit together. We begin on our chord of D with the shape here on the 3rd and 4th frets. It moves up to the 5th and back down, and then we get it on 1 and 2, and then on 3 and 4 again. That's essentially what happens. But when he moves the shape up to the 5th fret, he actually brings his thumb round onto the 5th fret of the bottom string. I might do that because I can do that. I might well use a finger instead. So that's the idea. In fact, he slides this shape into place. That's more the sort of thing. Okay, but that's pretty much it for the first bar, and then we move up to the G chord, and as I say here, he has his thumb, and then all sorts of other stuff starts to happen. We have the shape up here on the 8th and 9th, down to the 7th, and back down to the 5th. I can't do that with my thumb, as previously discussed, so I'm going to just play a bar chord here and move this up. So we get this kind of thing. Okay, timing might vary. That kind of a thing. That's the second bar. This is all going to be a bit dry as we kind of grind through these. We actually stay on that G for half a beat before coming back down to the D. That's just what he does. So we're moving that chord. That kind of a thing. And we end up here on the 7th fret for our A. And, you know, he does vary it a bit. I'm just going to stick to my basic Travis picking pattern, and he throws this in. So from the 7th fret to the 8th fret on the 3rd string, and from the 7th fret to the 9th fret on the 5th string. So let's have those first 4 bars nice and slowly. Thing. I should add that he begins with the open 4th, so there's like a little up as he begins. A little pick up there. That kind of a thing, as I say, note for note, I don't know, and I'm probably not even playing what I've got in the tab, but this is the idea. Then that repeats with a slightly different ending. We get G to D again, and this time that note on the 4th fret is pulled off before a single bar of A7 to D. And there's a few things you could do here at various times. You might just hammer on to the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, that kind of a thing, or you might use the 1st and 2nd of those shapes then. Or do all of that. Okay, so the first 8 bars, and I'm just going to sing this slowly while I do it. If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension, that taste of endless time. It's just like water, it runs right through our fingers, with a flavor of it lingers like a rich red wine. Okay, that's the first half done. It's probably worth mentioning at this point that the various versions I've heard of this, I've heard 5 or 6 different versions, at least 6. The tempo really varies from a little bit under 90 to about 104, even 106. I guess it depends on the night and how he's feeling, but I think it pays to practice a little bit faster than you expect to play it, and then you've got somewhere to relax too. Anyway, let's look at the second half now. We get into our second section. In those days we were single and we lived them one by one. Now here, whatever version, he always does this, it seems. On the 3rd beat, that shape we had before on the 8th and 9th frets of the 3rd and 5th strings, he pulls that off on the 3rd beat, like that, and then plays them as 8ths on the 4th beat. Okay, and then, I don't know, the following D is up for grabs, bit of hammer on or even that stuff, just like the end of the A section. In those days we were single and we lived them one by one. That'll do. And then we've got a bar of A and a bar of 2 beats of G, 2 beats of A, and that's the end of that section. Now we hardly, and we get a bit more of this. This time we start on the 8th and 9th frets and just pull it off. Now we hardly see them, they don't walk, they run. And I'm just doing a generic picking pattern for that. But you know, feel free to pick the top string as well. So, and that's the whole of that middle section. In those days we were single and we walked them one by one. Now they don't walk, they run. I can't look at the camera, play the guitar, I'll read the tab and sing the lyrics together. But the good news is that's it, because the following section, the last 4 bars, is the same as the second 4 bars. I've got plenty left to set my sight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. And then generally, depending on the version you're hearing, the instrumental section is again just that. Which means we've done everything. Okay, I'm going to have a little playthrough. I'm going to have to psych myself up for it. Maybe I'll play one verse, maybe a couple of verses. But listen, learn the lyrics too, because it's such a fabulous set of lyrics. It's really breathtaking, and I'm so glad that I've come across this song, and I'm very happy to share it with you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension, that taste of endless time. It's just like water, it runs right through our fingers, but the flavor of it lingers like rich red wine. In those days we were single and we lived them one by one. Now we hardly see them, they don't walk, they run, but I've got plenty left. I've set my sight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. I've never seen my life in such a hurry, but if I start to worry, I get left behind. It's like a party, but you don't get invitations. There's just one destination, you better be on time. For years we rhymed in couplets and we sang them 2 by 2. Now we hardly rhyme at all, but here's a few. And if they heard there's bullets left to bite on, don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. That drummer in my head needs inspiration. There's a lack of syncopation, it holds me to a line. It's just so hard to leave these cages that we're thinking. By stages we're just sinking to a slow decline. For years we lived in waltz time and we danced in 3 by 3. Now it's hard to dance, but if you stick with me, we've got what we need to spend the night on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. These races that we run were not for glory. No moral to this story. We're on for peace of mind. But the race we're running now is never ending. Since space and time are bending, there's no finish line. Will I live to be 100? I was born in 44. 39 to go, but I ain't keeping score. I've been left for dead before, but still I fight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home soon. Yeah, I've been left for dead before, but still I fight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on. I'll be home. And that's it. Soon.